Hello, and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Might and Magic Golden Era video. In this one, I'm gonna be tiering every single unit from the Temple faction. I played around, like in many formats. I've reached like a really high ranking. I played like over 100 hours by this point easily within a very short span of time. So I think that I'm already pretty aware of the meta and how things are in order to give you like a pretty good tier list of the Temple units. We're going to be going from tier 1 all the way to tier 7 with every single upgrade. So first of all is we have the trusty Swordsman. These guys are very reliable, okay? They don't do anything exceptional, but they're like just beefy, tanky boys that whenever, like you put something in front of them, they can punch, they come in like very plentiful numbers. They're honestly like a pretty decent, good unit. However, yeah, their plentifulness and their reliableness is going to be placing them in the B tier. Then, as every unit does, they have two upgrades. They can become the Guard Captain. So the Guard Captain is the direction that you take your Swordsman if you want them to be like a power stack. They get the Crusader double strike ability and they gain a little bit of speed. And basically, they are very squishy when compared to their counterpart, so they're pretty hard to use, and they also often feel they feel worse than having Sun's Aegises. So when you're upgrading to Guard Captains, they don't really like feel that good, despite being the designated power stack option for the tier 1. Because of that, I would say they're only like slightly better than Swordsman most of the time. They are pretty hard to like enable. When you enable them, they can be awesome. However, by default, they're not really that good. Their other upgrade, Sun's Aegis, is actually going to S tier, I think. Sun's Aegises are amazing. So what they do is they have an aura. They apply it to themselves always, and whenever any unit is adjacent, they're going to be taking 30% less range damage. So they are themselves like a giga tank of a unit, like you cannot kill these guys. And also, they will be making all the adjacent units not really killable either. They are perfect, and they feel so good to use. They feel so hard to kill. They are amazing. I love Sun's Aegises. Next up is we have their team. We have the Crossbowmen, which is, like your shooter, like one shot, like not really a lot of damage. Their special ability is more so to buff angels than themselves, and costs like way too much focus. They are, the Crossbowmen, they do their job, but they are pretty lame at it. So the Crossbowman goes into C tier. Then we have the Ostinger, which is basically the marksman of Heroes 3. They shoot twice, so they double the damage output of the crossbowmen and also gain a little bit of initiative as well. They become amazing whenever you upgrade them. They still have like some glaring weaknesses, like being like pretty squishy. They actually don't move before many of the units and bangs that you're going to be doing. So they are not very well fit for all situations, but in situations where they do well, they do really well. So the Ostinger is A tier. And unfortunately, the Marksman is going right beside them because they are very, very similar units. So the Marksman loses the ability to shoot twice, but instead they gain the sharpshooter buff. And they also gain a lot of initiative, and their special ability, Find Bolts, makes them deal 40% more damage instead of 20% more damage, which means that they're going to be able to buff your Angel quite a bit better, because your Angel is going to be like absorbing that buff and also having it. So basically, these two are situationally like interchangeable. If you need like more damage output and you can reliably somehow get them to shoot, then Ostingers are your go-to. But if you're already like, doing so much damage that it doesn't matter, and like if I shoot I win type of situation, then Marksman is usually the option for you. So yeah, these are the tier tiers. Next up is we have the Griffins. Griffins are surprisingly high damage units in Golden Era. I'm always surprised, like sometimes, very usually I will have like a lot of Griffins on me. The reason is because I either got like them from boxes or I ended up building to Lightweavers, but Griffins were along the way, so I guess I'm grabbing them. And I don't really like expect much of them, but they always like kind of surprise me. They do good work, they also have like good initiative. And because of their reliability and like baseline power, I will give them a B tier. Somewhere here. And their 2 upgrades, Temple Griffin, just makes them a lot better at everything that they do. Their initiative goes like through the roof of the charts, they're very fast, they actually deal a very surprising good amount of damage. Especially if you have like an offensively built hero. They become an A tier unit, which for a Griffin is very surprising. I'm like the #1 Griffin hater out there, but even I can't deny, you know, their power. They're really good. The Guardian Griffin though gains the ability to hit anything when something is hit next to them, which is like a super niche ability that's like pretty hard to take to use. And because of that, the side grade is actually going to be worse than the base unit. Because, you know, like, there's more opportunity costs. If you're upgrading a unit, you're going to be expecting it to be, like, quite a bit better than the base unit. But if it's not that much better, then you're actually, like, investing more resources into, like, basically the same trash. Which is not nice. That's why they are actually going into C tier. Next up is the Lightweaver. The most trusty damage unit of the entire faction, because they are decently tanky enough in order to actually not get one-shot like your tier 2s, but they deal a really good amount of damage, and they also have like some utility. Because of this, they are going straight into A tier. They are almost like the main playstyle of the faction. Like in Exodus and Harmony, you're just going to be building up the Lightweavers, easy build path, easy to get. Their growth is actually like very solid, so even if you don't overinvest into them, you're still going to be having like a really good stack of Lightweavers. They're awesome. Then whenever you're going to be like, you know, like using them as a pal stack, you're going to be upgrading them to the Sun's Herald, which will make them just like, you know, a little bit better. It's not really like anything amazing. Honestly, upgrading them is, in my opinion, very optional. But if you're upgrading them, then you're going to be like about here. And the Hierophant is your 1-stack option. You know, because I believe that she has like the better buff between the two. However, you know, upgrading the unit for the gain that you're gaining, upgrading the Hierophant, it's not really like amazing. So they're just gonna be like high B tier in my opinion. Honestly, I usually don't even upgrade Lightweavers. Lightweavers are perfect as they are. Let's go. And next up is the Cavalry. If I was making this tier list like a few days ago, then I might actually have put them like pretty low because I feel like they kind of like miss the mark for me. However, recently I've discovered the light of Cavalry. So #1 selling point for them is that their build path is extremely easy. From the beginning of the game, you can basically like immediately build them if you just get some wood and gold. That's all they need from the beginning of the game, just some wood and gold, and you can already be piloting some amazing cavalry. One of the highest initiative units in the game, one of the highest speed units in the game. They are amazing. Just an excellent power stack that you can always rely on. You also have the special ability of piercing armor, which is, you know, like letting them deal even with like very high tier units in the late game. They are just like a force to be reckoned with. In my opinion, they go pretty heavy into A tier. They are awesome. However, a little bit more niche than Lightweavers, but when they're good, they're really good. Noble Cavalry is the 1-stack choice of the Cavalry upgrades. They get like a better buff, so you might want to have one of them in order to click the charge button if you have too much focus, but that's all they're used for. So I would say that Noble Cavalry is like one of these bad upgrades that goes in here. The Sunspear Cavalry, on the other hand, becomes super beefy, amazing death-inflicting gods. They just do everything the Cavalry already does, and it takes it to a new level. So the Sunspear Cavalry is going S tier. Here we go. And next up is we have the tier 6. Now I'm really hoping that the tier 6 is like not really like that discovered, not many people play it, so maybe we're like kind of missing out or something. However, the way that I see the meta right now is that Inquisitors kind of suck. Okay? They are immune to damage. I mean, they're basically immune to damage, to be honest. Let's be real. Because they are immune to 100% of magic damage. And they are also immune... They also ignore the attacker's attack skill whenever they're getting attacked. So they're very physical damage resilient. And they are also magic damage immune, making them one of the tankiest units in the entire game. And it doesn't matter. Like, what are you using for damage on your, you know, like Temple Squad? You're gonna be using like, you know, Marksmen, Angels, you're gonna be using Lightweavers. You need something that is gonna be like applying a lot of pressure in order to protect these units. Like, just by sitting around there, you're not really like accomplishing anything. The units have to be proactive. There has to be like an element of proactiveness. You can't like just sit there and do nothing. By the way, being magic damage immune does not make you magic immune. That means that they're very prone to crowd control as well. So if you're overinvesting into Inquisitors, it's gonna be like pretty easy for the opponent to just cast a few spells like Web, Sleep, or whatever else in order to like get them to not participate in the fight, as everything around you, all the rest of your army will die. And then Inquisitors alone just can't really like hold. So because of that, they are kind of like in a weird spot. They get C tier. Then, next up is we have Mother Superior. So, and if everything that the Inquisitor did, the Mother Superior does like basically like the same but better. They become even more unkillable than before. Way more unkillable. They're super tanky. One of the hardest units in the game to kill. C tier. I mean, you have to do something. A tier 6 unit is a big investment. You're building out like an entire build path, you know, and then you're trying to probably get some dwellings, you're investing laws, you're investing gold, you're investing everything. And the best they can do is just sit there and not die? Like, bro, you gotta do more than that. And fortunately, the other side grade, Excommunicator, does kind of do that. They become quite a bit faster, they actually trade off some of their defense for offense, and the Excommunicator, I think, actually becomes like a pretty darn good unit. I mean, at the very least, like, way more usable than the Inquisitor and Mother Superior. So I will put them in B tier, over here. Then, next up is the Angel. So Angel on its own is just like a shooter unit, okay? They have like full melee penalty. They don't even have like, they have like pretty high initiative, but compared to like, you know, in the like the tier 7 roster, it's like not really that high. So they're a bulky, good, high damage, high utility shooter unit. However, for a tier 7 to have like such a glaring weakness as like just you stand next to them and suddenly they're no longer useful, it's just like a little bit too big of a weakness to have in order to place them at the complete top. I really like them, and I will put them in low A tier. Angels are, yeah, somewhere around here. Then next up is we have the Archangel. Now, full disclosure, okay, I'm gonna be biased. Yeah, from this point, I'm gonna be biased, quite a bit biased. Archangels are the best units in the game. Oh my god, they have like insane initiative, they have no melee penalty, they have extremely high damage. When you're playing Archangels, you're playing for a strategy where you basically just one-shot the hell out of your opponent before he even gets a turn. And it's very realistic to do that when playing Archangels. They still have like a melee penalty, so they still have these glaring weaknesses, but they go like just full glass cannon. They're circumventing getting HP, they don't get any defense, they don't really get like that much utility. They just go high initiative and high damage. I'm gonna kill you before you even move. And that for me is so much fun. And fun is a very big aspect for me when it comes to like tiering a unit in a certain position. So for me, Archangel goes into S tier. However, I will be fair and put it in the low S tier. This is as fair as I can be, okay? And next up is Apotheosis. This unit is a god, okay? It has no weaknesses. It is the perfect unit. It can shoot. It doesn't have melee penalty either, so it can brawl, and it brawls really well, by the way. It has the utility of being able to consume buffs and then use them really well. Whether it's melee buffs, whether it's range buffs, Apotheosis is gonna use it. Not only that, they're immune to every single negative debuff in the game, and that is very powerful. There's so many negative things that can be applied to you throughout the game of Olden Era. You know, like Nightshade as an entire school of magic doesn't function against these guys, and it's actually like one of the strongest schools of magic that is around that everyone is always using. Apotheosis not only ignores that, it also makes everyone around them ignore that too. It's an aura of negative buff immunity. I mean, debuff immunity. And they also get 300 HP, they're really fast, so yeah, they're basically just a god. Apotheosis, the top S tier, and my less preferred Angel upgrade of the two. Dude, it's just that this bronze looks like a little bit weak. Like, Archangel lives up to the fantasy of an Archangel. Apotheosis feels like a badly designed, overpowered isekai character. That's my vibe for it, you know? But it is what it is. They are the best units, so... yeah, there we go. And that is my Temple Creature tier list. I thank you so much for watching. It has, yeah, these are very great to make. I'm gonna be making one for every single faction, so you get to know, like, which upgrades are better, and where the units stand. I very much thank Dezo here, who makes, actually, in Tier Maker, ended up making a bunch of these tier lists, making this, like, pretty easy. For Hero Stream, I had to make them myself, so that's pretty convenient. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao!